and I will not be the facilitator for today. We have our friend, I mean, expert on the VR, but because we know him on a personal basis, that's why I mentioned him as a friend, is Marios. And let me introduce you a bit what is today's scope, vision, and mission about the training. Marios, as an external trainer, he currently works at one of the biggest, if not the biggest, research centers in Cyprus called Science, and it's one of the organizations that run AR and VR technologies through the last couple of years, together with universities, local municipalities, and organizations, NGOs, etc. Marios is fully aware about our project, about Prime project. He has been updated on what we have done and performed so far, our achievements, accomplishments, meetings that we had, and upcoming LTTA in Malta, if I'm not mistaken, in January or December, somewhere there. And he has prepared an interactive presentation with us. It is not going to be only Marius presenting. As you know from previous trainings we had, Nikos was the last guy from Greece that trained us about technology as well. We try to make them interactive so that the audience, the rest of the project managers, are aware and fully updated on what the trainer mentions and shows. Of course, the meeting it's going to be recorded, and questions, etc. Of course, we share them. The scope of today's meeting and training is not for the rest of the project managers of the rest of the organizations to become experts. Let's be realistic. We will have 2 hours in front of us, 1 hour and a half, depending on the speed. And our aim is to understand what is AR, what is VR, how we can use them, how we can take advantage of the benefits of the pros in our daily life, in your daily life with PWIDs. And if we want to make a step further, we need to have dedicated meetings by each and one of the project managers. 2 hours is not enough. It's a technology that started more than a decade ago, if you don't believe it, AR, VR. So we have this time to have an introduction with Marius and the gamification part of it. And if it is needed, we can have later on, but to set the expectations where we need them to be, we don't expect you, once the meeting finishes, to be able to create AR and VR projects and AR, VR documentations and games. We expect to have an understanding on what is the technology out there. If there are any questions, I will be there during the whole time. Vicky has joined us from CARDET. Hi, Vicky. And Marios, I believe the floor is yours. You can introduce and take lead of the workshop in front of us.
Thank you very much, Nicola, for the introduction, for inviting me to join this group and make a presentation for XR technologies. I will be talking about XR for training and education, as Nicolas mentioned. Let me share my screen before I start with the questions. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, Mario, it's clearly full screen.
Thank you very much. Before we start, some of the things that we will cover in this training is to get a good understanding of what are extended realities, what is XR, and what are the different components and the different technologies that comprise XR. We will talk about benefits of extended realities in education and different good practices that are implemented in education. We will talk about some obstacles that trainers face, especially in specific target groups, let's say, and then we will have a short Q&A for in case you have any questions. Before we start, I would like to ask you if you have any experience with XR, if you understand what this term covers. someone could take the lead and tell us a few things.
I'm always confused between extended and augmented reality, honestly.
Okay.
Maybe you can start from there. Like for
Yeah.
the
Did you have any? Do you have any experience with either augmented reality or virtual reality?
augmented reality, I did. I was in Paris a couple of weeks ago, and there was the Sainte Chapelle. I don't know if you've been there. It's a kind of, and there's some pictures everywhere on the glasses around you, but they are so small, and it tells the story of the Bible, and each window has small details that you cannot see. And there was a guy that showed me something that he called augmented reality. It was an app that was allowing us to see some details of the windows, because otherwise you was not able to enjoy and to saw or to see those details.
Okay. And how have you accessed this app, this
He
solution?
had, I mean, because he was just looking at it and I was curious and he showed me, but it was his app, it was his initiative. I don't know exactly
Okay.
what did he got.
I mean,
But
did
this
he
is
use some
augmented.
device, or did he use some device, or did he use some?
Yeah, he had some device, a specific
Okay.
device, actually.
Okay. Someone else who would like to describe? I'm sure that everyone has used augmented reality and virtual reality. Maybe some more or some less.
Virtual reality, yes, but for gaming.
Okay. Okay, that's a common one. Okay, let me start. So extended reality is an umbrella term that we use for immersive technologies that blend physical and digital worlds. So there are three components that we usually refer to. We have virtual reality that we will explain further in the next slides, where the user is immersed in a fully digital environment, so they don't interact with the outside world. We have augmented reality, where we see digital overlays on the real world with the use either of our smartphone or some smart glasses. And we have also the concept of mixed reality that blends the two concepts and adds more digital or other elements. This is an overview of the spectrum, let's say, of virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. We will see them more in detail because it still might not be very helpful, but just a quick overview is that in the one we are, as we see here, in a fully digital environment. The other one is usually an experience that we experience through a device while we are experiencing the real world. So we add some elements, and the mixed reality combines both of them. All of these experiences require some devices. It can be wearables on our face, or it can be, in some cases, some other devices that we carry on us. So virtual reality, the most traditional definition, is an experience that immerses users in a fully artificial environment without real world interference. So as we see in the pictures on the left, the users wears a head-mounted device that blocks him from the outer world, and they're only experiencing a fully digital environment. The VR headsets, besides the visual input, they also provide an audio input that is simulated with the whole experience. As we mentioned, we are isolated from the physical world. And an important aspect of virtual reality is the movement tracking that aligns with the headset and with the movements of the user. And the aim here is that we want to provide a very realistic and immersive experience, despite the fact that we are operating in a fully virtual, let's say, environment. There are different types of head-mounted device, the glasses that we wear on the face for virtual reality. We have some PC-based that operate using the computing power of a computer. So basically, you need a wire to connect this device to the computer. Usually, these devices are faster and they provide higher quality of graphics. We have also the smartphone-based devices, where we basically put our phones in a small console, let's say, as we saw in the previous slide, with the Google Cardboard, where our phone works as for our visual input. And we have also the standalone devices, which are the most popular devices for virtual reality, such as the ones that we will see in the next slides. Some of the most popular ones are the Meta Quest 3. Meta is a company owned by Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg, who has these very highly commercialable, let's say, devices. Most VR devices come with controllers to allow users not only to look and also to listen to what is happening in their environment, but also to move into their environment, to experience the environment and interact with it. There is also the concept of 360 videos that in many cases it's confused with virtual reality. It's a different thing. We are still experiencing a 3D environment, a virtual environment where we see sound and we have video, and we can look around basically, but the experience in the 360 videos is more static. We can only look around in a 360, let's say, direction, but we cannot have the full movement where we can move into the space, into the virtual space, and interact with the different elements of this space. Some of the different characteristics now of virtual reality is the immersion. It's an immersive experience where the user feels presence inside the space. We have the first sensory immersion with physical information acquired via our senses. So it's an experience that it goes beyond, let's say, the visual and the audio sensors. Sometimes controllers or haptic gloves give us also some input about that makes the experience more realistic. We have a symbolic and narrative immersion delivered by the content of interaction or a storyline. Usually these experiences are gamified and are very interactive. We can be part of a game, be part of a competition in a virtual environment. We have the social immersion, where we can be part of these experiences with other users and communicate and have this social experience. And we also have the psychological immersion, which is enhanced by the presence of multiple kinds of immersions. And yeah, as mentioned above. So the augmented reality is something that is more common, is something that a lot of us are experiencing even in a daily basis. As mentioned earlier, we have digital elements overlaid with the real world. Some of the applications you might be using in your daily basis are some applications like Google Translate. We also have the filters that we use when we take photos. You're wearing, for example, you open Messenger, or you upload a story, let's say on Instagram, and it appears like you have a hat on your head that moves with you as you move. And so these devices are usually accessible, these experiences are usually accessible through a smartphone or a tablet, or by the use of smart glasses. We have computer vision software that tracks movement, it tracks the objects in our physical environment and anchors the digital components to what we see in the physical environment. And there is as well, in some cases, audio integrated these applications. Some examples that you know, as we mentioned earlier, are the filters of that we see in the different social media applications. We have Google Translate. It has a feature where you can scan a menu, let's say, or some text in another language, and it translates simultaneously in your own language. And some other applications that were very viral some years ago, like Pokemon Go, where someone would navigate in their city or a place where they visit, and they would search for Pokemons and other elements. So now mixed reality is a bit more of a complex context, let's say, experience. It's the concept where real worlds and virtual worlds are merged and allows the users to interact with both. It's often used as a buzzword. Many argue that this technology is not there yet, doesn't exist yet, although there are some companies that suggested that they have been working towards developing this type of a solution. We have the Apple Vision Pro, which is an attempt to create a glass that can move us both in a fully virtual world or a real world environment with augmented elements on our vision. So as in the previous solution, this solution is an immersive solution where we can interact with virtual objects in a real or a virtual space using a head-mounted device or a smart glass. And as in the previous, as in virtual reality, we have the 6 degrees of freedom where we move ourselves and we navigate ourselves within space. And we have different elements that are anchored to different positions. Many applications that will be very useful in the future. We expect to see a lot of use of this technology once it's fully developed in medicine, among other fields, with interactive and 3D anatomy models. Doctors might be wearing these devices when they are in an operation, and they can get some information on their monitor, or they can transfer themselves in a meeting and switch during an operation. We can see this in this kind of technologies in the construction with holographic and building plans and other applications, both for demonstrating or for the different, let's say, training applications, and of course for design and for other applications. Are there any questions so far? Is there someone who still doesn't understand fully the difference between virtual reality and augmented reality at most? I see Antoine smiling there. He must be, he must have heard these things a lot.
No, it's because I have one and I never used it.
Okay. So what kind of, if you could guess, what kind of a head-mounted device the one we are holding is? From the three that we mentioned about.
Smartphone based, no? This is smartphone
Yes,
based.
exactly. It looks like a smartphone device. So the way you would use a device that the one holds is that you would basically, it's a very simple device. You will put your phone in the case. Basically, it's like a case, and you can passively mostly enjoy some content. So other concepts now that are often blended and are integrated in the different aspects of virtual reality. We have the 360 photos. We see them a lot in Google Maps and in other applications, where we can navigate in an environment in a way by seeing different sequences of photos. One example, as we mentioned, is the Google Maps, where you can go to different points. You are not immersed in the environment. There is no audio input, and you cannot interact with the environment. We cannot even move in the environment, but you can stand in a specific point and experience the location as if you are there in a very static way. and we also have the 360 videos where in some cases they can feel immersive if you are experiencing something, for example, like a roller coaster or something like this. You have the audio and you have the visual input that can be quite convincing in some cases, especially when you don't need to move in the environment or interact with it. But as we mentioned before, these concepts are not exactly virtual reality or augmented reality experiences. We are passive viewers who experience these solutions passively, while in augmented reality and virtual reality, we are being part of it and we are interacting with the technology. Some very common case studies of virtual and augmented reality. We have a lot of trainings taking place where we don't want to put the trainees in danger. So we simulate a lot of these experiences. For example, in the construction, we can show to construction workers how they will follow certain processes without putting them in danger. We have also some other applications like welding and a variety of applications that are being delivered for training, either for soft skills or for vocational education or for adult education or for children. We also have a lot of applications for augmented reality. Very common ones are in the medical training, where students visual the different parts of the body, different models of the body in a 3D manner. It's very important to emphasize here for education that XR is not about fancy hardware. It's not the purpose of of education, but it's more about enriching learning experiences, making the content more interesting to the learners, and making sure that we achieve at the best the learning objectives that we have set for our training. So far, do you have any questions? Has any one of you used virtual reality or augmented reality for a training? Have you implemented a training, or have you incorporated some application in your trainings? I see Vicky, she raised her hand.
I don't know if this counts, but we had a project that we used the Oculus, the glasses, which are VR, for learning foreign language to refugees or migrants. So we did a training with this and refugee women to explain how they can learn a language like this.
Okay. So what was their feedback, let's say, from this experience? Did you find them engaged to use this?
Of course, because it's not something that everyone has in his house, the Oculus glasses. So we had a few pairs, let's say one or two, and we just let them try, and it was totally different experience for them, and they enjoyed, of course.
Did you have any negative feedback in regard to using the Oculus Quest?
As far as I remember, no, not something very specific for the VR, at least. So it was very nice experience for them.
Okay, thank you. Someone else, or someone else who had either used or okay, let me move to my next slide then. So now on the benefits of learning from extended realities, there is an ongoing research on the benefits of immersive technologies of extended reality into learning. We see that there is a higher immersive retention. 85% of learners retain information better through immersive experience. learning becomes more fun and more interactive with virtual reality and augmented reality, as we add an element of gamification into our learning offering. We have seen an increased efficiency as extended reality can reduce the training time up to 30–40% while achieving the same learning objectives. And with extended reality, as we said, we can reduce material waste and we can minimize safety risks, creating a more sustainable learning experience. Other benefits, as we mentioned earlier, is the enhanced engagement, enhanced concentration that users experience in the training. There are different therapeutical benefits of extended realities when we are dealing with people with different cognitive, let's say, challenges in some cases. VR has been explored at this point to some extent with positive impact on various therapeutic and social, let's say, good contexts. It expands the range of experiences that we can offer to people with limited mobility because they can reach some experiences that were previously not accessible to them, either due to mobility or other issues. So it's a fun alternative that we can offer to people with limited mobility. We have witnessed stronger engagement for the users of extended reality, particularly virtual reality and augmented reality. There are some studies where extended realities have been proven beneficial for patients with dementia care. And one of the benefits is that we can provide customizable content in different cases, including VR content or for augmented reality in different areas such as stress management, which have been tested in some of the studies I'm mentioning here with very positive feedback. And there are ongoing studies on how individuals with autism can navigate to virtual social situations, and we can support them, let's say, to develop social and other skills. They can interact with either real users or, let's say, virtual users in a very controlled and very safe environment. And this way we can make them feel safe and we can make them more productive and we can better monitor them achieving their own targets. Virtual reality also supports restorative and relaxation-focused applications with positive impact on mental wellness, documented, especially in individuals with physical illnesses or disabilities. Some other benefits of extended realities in education. We have inclusive design in extended realities. It's a human-centric approach that focuses on their needs, wants, and limitations. They have the option when they don't like the experience to remove their headset or to stop the experience. There are experiences that are becoming more and more accessible and beneficial to everyone. And there are actually many research groups currently, such as the Inclusive XR Collaborative, who work towards increasing the accessibility of the XR experiences. Of course, there are some experiences like augmented reality that are more accessible, but with the growth of virtual reality devices, we see these kind of experiences also becoming more accessible. Another positive benefit of virtual reality, we can have multiple perspectives. The user can switch to different points of view and experience the same situation from different perspectives, rather than the traditional egocentric view. You can see a demonstration here on the chart, on the infographic. We have new possibilities now with virtual reality the idea of a global teleportation where we can experience places that that we didn't have access up to now. We can move in a virtual environment and experience a museum or a country that is not easy for us to visit. And in many of the cases, we can navigate in these spaces and we can also interact. We see now a lot of museums adding these experiences in their premises. You can go there and put a head-mounted device and get a more immersive experience in the museum besides looking at the artifacts. And of course, we can gain access to a lot of these experiences remotely. Even without visiting, we can access applications. Some of them we will see later, where we can be part of these museums, visit foreign countries, and do a variety of activities. And of course, there are some places that are more dangerous, and there are also other reasons why we can't access them, like volcanoes, as we see in the picture, or some places like the North Pole or something like this that are less easily accessible. We have the opportunity to experience something like the time machine effect. We can navigate not only in space, but we can basically navigate also in time. We can travel back. We can put students in a different period and they can witness how life used to be, let's say, in a more traditional context by seeing different occupations, see how people worked, see how their cities used to be, or even play in a past environment. We have contextualized learning. Virtual reality can also show context of the learning topic. Here we can see someone in the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, I think, if I'm not mistaken, where people can experience, let's say, not only the location, but other features, such as some cultural features, what people are wearing, what kind of things they are doing, and these kind of things. As we mentioned earlier, it's a multi-sensory experience. Students can move into a virtual space. They can engage with the elements. They can grab an element. They can throw an element. They can interact with it. And in some cases, when we have some haptics and some other experiences, they can even have different kind of sensory input, let's say. It can be vibration. In the future, it could be feeling either warmth or other kind of like input that they can make the experience even more immersive and more entertaining. One other benefit of virtual reality, both in education and also in other aspects, is that it allows us to break the laws of physics. We can do things that we could not do in our real life, like extend our body parts, or fly, or switch off gravities, or or lift heavy load, travel with a different speed, and different things that are not possible with other kind of experiences. There is relevant autonomy of someone who is experiencing a virtual environment. Even if we put them in a specific framework, they have the ability to take their own choices, navigate wherever they want, and do whatever they want in that environment. Other kind of benefits that we can teach with virtual reality is that I think, Patrias, you have your mic on. Thank you. So there are different applications on how we can teach social skills and other kind of cultural, let's say, lessons. here is an example of this empathy agent, where the aim is that to make the user develop some other skills like feeling empathy towards others. Of course, one of the most common ones that we mentioned earlier is the virtual rehearsal. In the context, in the picture here, we can see someone running a scenario on how to put down a fire in an office environment. There are also other applications where we can use a lot of applications actually for the place of work, where we can make sure that people understand the different processes, either that is in an office environment or in another environment that has more dangers than the others. There are also different applications of virtual reality and augmented reality to sports. In COVID, we saw a rise of applications where we had both professional athletes training during the time of lockdown, wearing a headset, a virtual reality headset. Here we see actually a goalkeeper. He's going through a training where he's trying to catch the ball, and they are testing his reflections. These trainings not only help us keep the student, let's say the user, in shape, but we can also measure their performance in different contexts. This is actually a solution that was developed in Cyprus by a local startup, and is widely being implemented now in different countries. Another future concept actually is the idea of the remote presence, where students can use VR to connect with other students in other places, and not only interact in a let's say virtual environment, but potentially in the future we will be able to interact also in physical environments, where one user will be accessing with a virtual reality technology and with different controllers, and we can have the different commands and signals operating either a robot or different kind of applications. So with VR and with augmented reality, we can also remotely use different robots and different machines and do different kind of operations. This is very important because it minimizes the need in some cases of experts to travel to different locations in order to conduct different kind of jobs. There are different applications in patients and in other and in different contexts in regard to teaching something where focus is very important. We have a very controlled environment with virtual reality in some cases. So this experience can be very controlled and more focused, since the majority of trainings, especially virtual ones, we have so many distractions. It's something that everyone does, that we are in a meeting and we are also answering messages or we are answering emails. So with virtual reality applications, we make sure that the person is experiencing it and is taking and is participating in the training. One of the things I'm sure you might be familiar, you should be familiar with the Bloom's taxonomy for the educational objectives. We experience and we know that with virtual and augmented reality, the education is becoming more experiential. We have what we are saying about active learning by doing, and it's more easy for the students to get some new skills and to be able to reuse them after the training is completed. This is the Bloom's taxonomy. It developed by Benjamin Bloom and creates a different kind of. It has different levels of learning. Other applications of extended realities include XR for policymakers, where they can basically we can better work towards employee competencies, and there is different input towards for policymakers on what are the different needs in the vocational sector, let's say. Another aspect of virtual reality is the social VR. By the way, am I going too fast? Does anyone has any questions?
No, you're at a good pace, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so as all technologies, an important aspect of virtual reality is being social and interactive with other users. These emerging technologies can really impact on how we interact, especially in times like in COVID-19 when we could not go out. So we had different experiences where we could attend events and not only be part of a show, but also interact with other elements in this environment that can be not only digital, let's say, characters and virtual characters, but also real characters who are also participating into this virtual event. The most common applications include avatars. Each character is represented by their own avatar that they can adapt, and they can build a persona that they like. And as we said earlier, they are able to move, to turn, to interact almost as they did in the real world. So it's also a gamified experience in a way. It simulates and it potentially enhances real world interactions. The way we speak in there is a certain, let's say, there are certain expectations on how we interact with people in the physical environment, and this also applies in most cases in virtual environments. The etiquette that we use when addressing people, real people, in a virtual environment is very important. In the same level that is in the real environment, and in cases where people do not, let's say, follow these rules, they might be banned from the virtual environment. As we mentioned earlier, virtual reality, one of the fun aspects is that it's not bound by the laws of physics. Participants can take multiple perspectives. They can go back in time. They can, as we mentioned earlier, turn gravity on and off, lift heavy objects, and so forth. They can do different activities along with their colleagues or their friends or their students. Social virtual reality can also enable, we can actually change dramatically how individuals interact over distance. It can enable both real-time and asynchronous information transferring and processing. So it's mainly a synchronous experience actually, but it can be both synchronous and asynchronous. And so yeah, as we mentioned earlier, we have different events that we can participate even in times of COVID, or we can have a virtual event with our colleagues, or in a meeting, or in a working environment, we can have a virtual meeting in cases where traveling is not possible, or we have people working from different locations. Some of the different properties that we mentioned earlier of social virtual reality is the avatars. It's a way in which each character, each person is represented into this experience. One of the big benefits that gives is that it can give people who with either a lower self-esteem or with different mobility issues, or a person who in general is not very confident with their appearance, or it affects their psychology, they can move in a virtual world and they can have their own persona where they are equal. They can feel themselves equal as the other characters, and this can really boost their confidence and how they interact and socialize with other users. We have, of course, the virtual space that we mentioned earlier, where users can navigate, they can operate, they can do different activities, they can play. We have the different objects, which in the most immersive, let's say, VR experiences are not static. It's not just a chair that you can jump on, but it's an element that you can grab, that you can throw, that you can potentially open if it's a door or if it's a box, and you can really interact with. Of course, the other thing that we mentioned is the different types of communication, verbal communication, discussing and talking with other characters. Either they are virtual characters or they are real characters, and non-verbal communication. This can be gestures that we can do to someone else. We can wave to someone. We can say hi to someone through gestures. And it's another way of communication. As mentioned above, in regard to communication, etiquette is also very important in virtual reality environments. And it's good when we have students doing this kind of, taking part in this kind of experience to monitor them. Yeah. We mentioned these things earlier, the Proteus effect, how we choose an avatar and we move in a different virtual environment can have a real impact on psychological and other behavior implications, and it's different on how we interact with people in real life. So social virtual reality, what it does is that with synchronous interaction, we emphasize when there is a need for dialogue, problem solving, or achieving mutual understanding, especially if there is low familiarity or a lack of redundant information among individuals. And for this purpose, with these virtual environment experiences, we can provide real-time, either avatar-based interactions or with some kind of holograms for purposes of video conferencing and participating with people in a virtual environment. In these solutions, users are connected at the same time. They can have a real-time conversation. We have a limited and a selected amount of participants, and we can have this kind of different interactions that we have. We can talk with people. We can be in a virtual space, but we might choose to communicate through chat, and we can share and we can watch a video together, and we can do different kind of activities. In asynchronous experiences, individuals convey a larger amount of raw data and information. It has to do with the computing power of these solutions. Users might not be online at the same time. They might join different courses in different times. It's a more personalized, let's say, experience, and the conversation follows in a similar manner. It is widely acknowledged that stronger social ties improve the collaboration performance in organizations. As you mentioned, social virtual reality enables and fosters team bonding, tie strengthening with different participants. So we are talking about a training or an experience that we have with our colleagues that aims to bond our team and also strengthen the different components. In trainings, we want to make sure that learners are reaching better learning objectives through this experience. Some components that we can relate, we can build is trust, reciprocity, informality, emotional support against emotional intensity, and interacting with presence. Some current platforms that we can utilize to have these kind of experiences include for consumers some experiences like Alcove, Horizon Workrooms, Spatial, Engage, Rec Room, VR Chat, VTime, Sansar. The same solutions also exist for professional applications. This, in most cases, you can join in these experiences with a virtual reality headset, but also you can join from a PC, so we can allow users who cannot afford or they don't have access to a virtual reality headset to also participate in this kind of virtual reality solution through an avatar. They can navigate with their keyboards and through their PC. Different advices for teachers. First, consider the most appropriate platform. It's important to choose a platform that is not open in most of the cases to external users, because you want to protect the students from external, let's say, users of the same platform. It's very important to take account the recommendation ratings of the platform, and check different reviews and find different ways to optimize the safety of the student. I will mention a bit about the different learning objectives. So a point here, does someone have any question before we go to some of the challenges in virtual reality and augmented reality adoption? Okay, let me proceed. So now we will see some of the challenges and some of the barriers of people who are using virtual reality, and it might be something that you might have come across in your own work. One of the most common challenge, at least in the past, that we see kind of being reduced in the next years is the cost. As you all know, the cost of purchasing headsets, especially for a larger amount of people, for a bigger group or for classes or for a whole school, it's significant. So it's not the most affordable solution at the moment to implement in a class. There is also a greater cost related to the creation of content. Currently, a lot of the content is actually offered via subscription. So we need to really navigate and see what kind of content is there for our needs. And unfortunately, developing AR or VR content at this point is not as affordable, but it's something that with different solutions, it will come down in the next years. Of course, virtual reality, investing in virtual reality is an investment that someone does to their organization, but we can understand that these devices, they change rapidly through the years, and it's very common that we buy something and after a few years it becomes less relevant. Yeah, as we mentioned just now, sometimes schools or organizations are afraid of jumping too soon. There is a higher rate of the development of these technologies, and from the moment we consider buying it, or if we buy a certain technology, by the time we use it at its maximum, it might be already, let's say, obsolete, and it might be lacking support and will not help us reach the learning objectives that we wanted to achieve. XR solutions are only relevant in education if we use them to obtain learning outputs we cannot obtain another way. As we mentioned earlier, it's just another tool to make learning more interesting and more fun. A very common pitfall, let's say, that we see that people experience by wearing headsets for a long time is that sometimes the users feel disoriented. They feel that the experience is overwhelming. If it's an experience that, let's say, has an element of risk or decision taking, or it can be something that scares them in real life, like jumping from a higher level, or they might interact with some object that they are afraid, like a spider, or they might feel that the experience is overwhelming for them. And we can see that users can experience a higher, let's say, heart pulse, or they might feel dizziness, they might feel anxious from this experience. So a good practice when we are putting virtual reality into our training is a very good to organize these sessions in shorter rounds of 15 minutes, 20 minutes or less, have different debriefs and discuss with them how their experience is going before we continue with another session. And as we mentioned earlier, it's also very important that we use applications that are developed for the educational level that we are addressing and in a more controlled manner. Another common barrier is the lack of understanding. It's very common that the users do not see the point of virtual reality. They are not very prone, let's say, they are not very prone to using this kind of experience. They see it as something they don't want to get involved with. What we say, fear of change, fear of trying new things. They are fear of the whole experience of moving into this virtual environment. Health and safety is a very big aspect of virtual reality as a barrier. So when we offer this kind of content, either to adults or to underage students, it's very important to monitor what kind of experience they have, where they have access to. There is, of course, adult content that we need to be aware of. So we need to give them specific, to give them the whole experience in a very specific context with very specific applications that we choose from before. We want to make sure that they don't get too much screen time, that they have breaks in different sessions, and then we monitor the overall time that they spend with these devices. We need to make sure that the space is appropriate. So when people are moving into a certain space, we don't have the risk of them hurting themselves either by punching a wall or tripping into furniture or different other objects in their physical space. Most of these virtual reality headsets or devices, they have these different protection measures to protect us from these concerns, but it's important for ourselves to be very aware that the implementation of virtual reality can put someone into this kind of risk. And there's also the aspect of the social isolation when someone is experiencing a virtual reality, let's say, solution or a technology alone. It can lead to isolation, as in other cases of gaming or let's say some experiences where the user is alone. So some of the measures that we can take breaks every 10 minutes. A good, not so good actually, I think, but it can be different for different users, is that we can remain seated during use if this doesn't minimize the whole experience of the virtual reality that we are part of, because moving in the physical space is part of it's one very important layer of immersiveness. We should discontinue the use either for ourselves or the people who participate in our training if they experience any motion sickness, if they feel tired, or if they feel that they feel unwell, and other different precautions, let's say, for our safety. Another health and safety barrier or risk, let's say, is the distraction. A lot of people are on their phones looking for some elements, like in the case of that we said so earlier in Pokemon Go or in some other solutions. So it's important, again, to be very careful when we are using this kind of the solutions that require our attention, especially when we are in an environment that is less controlled, like when we're on the street or in a public space. So a quick recap about the obstacles and the different risks and how to mitigate them for virtual reality. We should prioritize shorter sessions, more targeted, better monitor, and use more modern hardware where possible. For augmented reality, design context-aware experiences to minimize distraction and be more aware when we're in a more social context. And for XR, one very good practice is that we can run some small pilots, or we can do different, let's say, small, more controlled trainings and pilots to make sure that we have what it takes to implement this to a different group in the next stages. Does someone has any questions before I move on? Okay, so in my last part, I allocated some slides on what are some steps that we can take to implement extended realities in a class. We already saw earlier some platforms that I can also share with you on an email on some more open platforms, let's say, that we can integrate in our course, that are more where we can navigate in a virtual space. A very important aspect of this of introducing virtual reality and augmented reality into training is to first experiment ourselves with different solutions. Each trainer is the one who knows better what kind of needs they have and what kind of content they are looking for. So the best thing to do is to make a search for different tools in virtual reality, using virtual reality and AR, and see what is out there in our field and what we could implement in our sessions. So the first thing comes with let's say, experimentation. It's very important that we run our local pilots. It can be with a small group where we can gather our team and have short sessions, 10 or 15 minutes, and we can go through the different scenarios of the things that we could do to our students. Of course, a very important thing to keep in mind is that we have to keep it simple. We don't want to make too much or to promise too much in this in something in a virtual reality environment, mostly because there are still not so many resources, and also because we need to be very careful of the content that we are providing. Of course, repetition, the more we use and the more we get comfortable with this kind of technologies, the more comfortable we will be to implement this in a class and to help other people to get familiar with these solutions. And last but not least, to see where there are gaps for customization, to make sure that the trainings that we are providing are using the different technologies that are suitable for our users. A very good way to start is consider what kind of capacity we have to integrate these kind of solutions into our trainings. We can start with more low cost, let's say, solutions, at least for virtual reality. It can be something like some older models like MetaQuest 2 or 3, which range from 300 euros to 500 euros. These solutions, usually they come with a lot of applications integrated in them, developed mainly in many cases by these providers, and they can give us a range of applications that we can use. One is the MetaQuest 2 or 3. We also have Pico 4, and there are also even more cheap solutions like the one we saw earlier from Antoine that use mobile devices inserted in the head-mounted device. For augmented reality, we have now a wide range of smartphone apps that we can use to teach different things to our students. We can find applications related to anatomy or with different kind of games that they can play. We can create, and we can even experiment with tools like Adobe Aero and other solutions in order to create different scenes. And we could put some elements of augmented reality into our trainings. One example could be that we make a quest, let's say, we can make something like a street quest where some of the elements the student needs to find, or like a treasure hunt, where some of the elements the students are looking for are hidden in an augmented reality, let's say, manner, where they have to scan a QR code and then they need to search for the element in a different location, in different locations. There are also some other solutions like the Merge Cube, which it has different elements that you can scan and have an augmented reality experience with your phone in a class. I have added some other experiences, by the way, that someone can consider. Some of them are commercial and some of them are more free to use. There is this Endeavor solution that is mainly developed to provide different experiences for seniors. It mainly focuses on providing different cultural or, let's say, travel experiences for seniors. And usually there are some possibilities that senior citizens can participate in this kind of cultural activities, not alone, but also with their friends or their relatives. Another experience that is more focused on adults, it's focused mainly on children, that it's powered by augmented reality technology. And AI is Quiver, where students draw in their coloring books and then they can visualize and they can see a 3D model of the character they have painted, let's say. We have more commercial experiences, more let's say corporate experiences like Meeting VR or Horizon workrooms, where colleagues can join in a virtual environment and they can have a meeting, they can share documents, they can watch something, and they can make sure that they are doing they're collaborating online. So before I close, does anyone have any question in regard to the presentation?
You've been very thorough.
Thank you very much.
Maybe just one question. I mean, regarding the senior device that or app or tool that you was introducing, which was the previous slides, it was Rendiver, I think.
Endeavor, yes.
Yeah. I mean, did you add some experiences with this kind of device or some feedback or something to share? I
Yeah,
mean,
it's one of the more
you
it's one of the more commercial experience, let's say, offerings of virtual reality. But in general, there is a variety of, I think this is under payment. You have to pay to access it, although there is a free tier where you can join like 5 events a month or something like this. This one is more targeted for senior citizens. So if you are looking to, the thing with virtual reality experiences is that there is a variety, but if you want to go to something more specific, sometimes you have to pay the price. So if you want something very targeted, for example, in this context, if you are working with senior citizens, you might consider subscribing to a service that and this is something that you want to provide to these citizens. This one has received a lot of positive feedback, but there are other less commercial, let's say, experiences. I think I had mentioned somewhere the Google Arts and Culture. I think there is a page like this. I can share it after the meeting, where you can access a lot of museums and a lot of cultural places without having to pay something. So one of the things, as you mentioned earlier, with a lot of these head-mounted device, when you purchase them, they have a lot of applications that are pre-installed. So many of these things you can get them also for free.
Mm.